In my Ryan Russillo is Leaving podcast, I talked about Sam Presti being lucky, and he is lucky. But someone had a fair response to this. So let's go ahead and read the comment from Jason Robinson. I was with you until you started spewing nonsense about Sam Presti. He's probably a quote unquote good GM, does a quote unquote decent job. The dude builds the best roster in the league, hits on every draft pick, makes the trade, and signs key free agents to win a championship. And you're out here calling it luck. Come on, man. So the highlighted part that I have here is where I want to focus. The dude builds the best roster in the league. So then the question becomes, well, how did he build the best roster in the league? And of course, the answer has to come back to the Paul George trade. So let's go through this. This is what the Thunder got in exchange for Paul George. Shai, Danilo Gallinari, a 2021 first, a 2022 first, a 2023 first, a 2023 first round pick swap, a 2024 first round pick, a 2025 first, and a 2026 first. Now, in fairness to all parties, it wasn't known that Shai was Shai at the time this trade was made. He was a promising prospect, someone that had all-star potential, but no one knew he was going to turn into the MVP of the league. But this is an embarrassment of riches. It's a windfall, one that other GMs do not have access to. And the only reason that Sam Presti had access to this was because of Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard demanded that the Clippers get Paul George or he wasn't going to sign with them. So then I ask you, well, what did Sam Presti do here? Like what was the masterminding? Because really he maybe he extracted another draft pick, but the Clippers had no leverage in this trade, and you could see it. And the Clippers were ready to go all in. They did, obviously. They went even further than all in. Uh, and and so now you have all of these, you have this infusion of talent to the Thunder. And I don't see how this isn't luck. Because if Kawhi Leonard doesn't exist, this trade doesn't happen. And the OKC Thunder do not win the championship last year. And then so what is the outlook on Sam Presti? If the Thunder aren't a championship team and they're still floundering from whatever remnants exist from the Russell Westbrook Paul George duo, then what's the outlook on Sam Presti? And I know Sam Presti, he's got the studious glasses. We've got Charles Barkley has stated that, has complimented him, states that he's the best and he's doing a great job. But where is he at without this trade? And I'll give Jalen Williams, certainly an excellent pick, especially at what was it, 12 or 13. Also, he ripped off the Chicago Bulls because they didn't need that. The best part about that trade for Sam Presti is they didn't want or need Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey was just in the way. He did not fit on that team, and they were able to land someone who is an integral part of their championship run. And I don't know if they win the championship without Alex Caruso. So yeah, brilliant. I wouldn't call it a brilliant trade so much as he really ripped off the Chicago Bulls, but still a very good trade. This is not to detract from the good transactions that he's had. But to me, I don't see how you can get around the luck aspect of this. Unless he knew that by acquiring Paul George, it would later come back to him in the form of 1,000 first-round draft picks and Shai. I don't see how you can't call this luck. Now, he could be lucky and good at the same time, but I can't get around this. And just because he has a championship now on his resume, that doesn't mean anything other than he was able to win a championship. But I'm going to look at how. So if you tell me, like, look, I have a mansion, okay, you have a mansion, but like, how did you get there? And to me, it's not going to count if you were involved in, let's say you became a guru, like let's just say you're a real estate guru and you're putting on weekend seminars where you're ripping off people on the weekends, and then you accumulate a lot of money. And then so you end up having a mansion and you have all of this money. But to me, are you really a success? No, because you ripped off people to get here. And for Sam Presti, you could say, yeah, you're a championship GM, you did well with the roster you have, but you still have to look at how this came about. It came about through luck. This is circumstance. It's not. I'm not saying this to work against Sam Presti, although I recognize that it is in a way. But it's like it's just it's just what actually happened. You actually got lucky. Um, yeah, I mean, if there's just things that happen, like some people are the beneficiaries of luck, and here Sam Presti was in in the realm of being an NBA GM. This is hitting the lottery for an NBA GM. It doesn't get much better than this. We've seen a lot of I maybe if I think about it, the Danny Ainge trade for Rudy Gobert, how he was able to get that much for Rudy Gobert. That was a horrible trade for the Timberwolves. I don't care if the Timberwolves had won the championship. It's still a horrible trade because it's not a matter. You're not going to look at necessarily the result. You're going to look at what was the value at the time the trade was made. And I have to believe that Danny Ainge would have done that trade for less. Otherwise, like what are the Jazz holding on to Rudy Gobert for? So if you're an NBA GM, part of your responsibility to me is to look at the point of view from the other team. And if you're the other team, if I'm the Utah Jazz, what am I holding on to Rudy Gobert for? Like, so if we don't get one of these first round picks, am I saying no to this deal? There's no way, because how else? That's the maximum. Danny Ainge got beyond the maximum value that he could have from any other team from the Minnesota Timberwolves. And so the Timberwolves did get ripped off in that trade. They traded too much. They overvalued Rudy Gobert and didn't look at the value to the Jazz. The same thing, I'm talking about the same thing with the Bulls trade. The Bulls apparently overvalued Josh Giddey to the point they were willing to trade their one. It was Alex Caruso was very coveted in the NBA. Although he's a role player, but he does so much as in that role. And again, what were the Thunder going to do with Josh Giddey? And what are the Bulls going to do with Josh Giddey? So the Bulls got Josh Giddey. Where did that get them anyway? So you just looking at it from both perspectives, the OKC ripped them off in that trade. The OKC, what were they? Josh Giddey was unwanted. They didn't want Josh Giddey. He didn't fit with their team. And so it just goes back to when you have this type of luck, it's recognized as luck. This is lucky. It's not like the Clippers aren't going to do this trade unless Kawhi Leonard says, unless you get Paul George, I am not coming here. That's luck. And so I don't see how you get around that. I think it's completely fair. I don't see objectively how is this unfair to call Sam Presti lucky when he is the recipient of this trade, and yet he is not the one that made this trade come about. He's made some other good moves. He's not the Thunder do not win a championship without this trade. And now what this does is it sets the Thunder up to continuously win. So because they have accumulated so many assets, and this is part of where Presti being a GM will come into play. Now he needs to maneuver those so that the assets continually replenish and that the Thunder just remain in championship contention for so long into the future. So that's part of what Sam Presti's job is. But he's only able to be in this position because of the Kawhi Leonard trade. So that's the way I see it. That's my outlook. I don't think that's unfair to anybody, but I'm interested to know if somebody does think this is unfair, like how is it unfair to say that this is lucky? But let's continue on. Let's go back to the big board. Let's continue on with Caitlyn Clark and the Ewing Theory. And this is something from peak Bill Simmons when he was writing long form content on Grantland. No, this was actually pre-Grantland. This is his early days at ESPN. And I don't know the full Bill Simmons background, but I do know that his columns were pristine. And this was before he ever became a podcast pioneer. So I couldn't help but notice that Caitlyn Clark was injured and she's been ruled out for the season. I also noticed that the Indiana Fever advanced in the WNBA playoffs. So that to me was surprising, given that Caitlin Clark is such a loss, but they've been able to overcome that. And now let's look at the WNBA bracket. Oh, actually, let's look at the Fever. I don't know if we have the records here. Yeah, we have the records. So in Caitlin Clark's rookie season, the Fever were an even 500 at 20-20. And then this season, they are 24-20. But Caitlin Clark has only played in 13 games. And now we see that last year they lost in the first round of the playoffs. This year, if they've won in the first round of the playoffs. And if we look at the brackets, we can see that they are now facing the Las Vegas Aces, and their series is tied 1-1. And if they win this game is tonight. If they win, they are going to the WNBA finals. So wouldn't that be interesting if we have the Fever and they're in the finals, but it's not because of Caitlin Clark. And we can see that the Fever actually upset the Atlanta Dream in the first round. They were the 6th seed, and the Dream were the 3rd seed, and they beat them. And then now, because the WNBA has so many less, the WNBA has far less teams than the NBA. Because of this, the playoffs are more condensed, and so now you can see here that it's easier to advance in the playoffs, and so they're one win away from the finals, and it's just an interesting storyline. You have the Fever, they're in the finals, but it's not because of Caitlin Clark. It's an awkward situation to an extent. But going to the Ewing Theory, this is a vintage ESPN article from the original article ran May 9th, 2001. But let's look at the 2 conditions that must exist for someone to qualify for the Ewing status. So 1, a star athlete receives an inordinate amount of media attention and fan interest. Well, we definitely have this in place. And yet his teams never win anything substantial with him other than maybe some early round playoff series. So here's where everything falls apart, because Caitlin Clark is too early in her career to say anything about never winning. And then we have the second condition. That same athlete leaves his team either by injury, trade, graduation, free agency, or retirement, and both the media and fans immediately write off the team for the following season. This starts to come apart because here we have for the following season. I don't know if the media and fans wrote off the Fever or if anybody was really that interested in writing the Fever off to begin with. So I don't know, just because she's injured, does that mean that people are writing off the Fever? Maybe, but we don't have a candidate here. It's too early in her career. All right, continuing on, I have what is going on with Colin Cowherd's The Volume podcast network. So while I was researching this episode, and I was looking into Colin for an unrelated reason, but while looking at him, I came across his podcast network, and I remember this network because when Draymond Green's podcast first started out, I noticed that he was under Colin's label, and I wondered to myself, why did Draymond Green sign with Colin? Like, what is he getting from Colin? Because keep in mind, this is earlier in Draymond's career. He's already getting so much attention. He's an active player. And he's also of interest because of all of his ongoings on and off the court. So just to me, it's like, why does Draymond need to sign with Colin Cowherd? But now we see this portfolio of podcasts that are under Colin. We have Daniel Cormier and Club 520 with Jeff Teague that stand out to me. And then recently we have this razor sharp signing. This is really smart. This is a really smart signing. Colin landed Sophie Cunningham, says here, to a podcast deal with Cowherd Media Property. So, of course, Sophie is friends with Caitlyn. So there's the very real possibility that we have an appearance by Caitlin Clark. And then we also have, if nothing else, we have insight into Caitlin Clark. And then we have Sophie Cunningham in her own right. So this is a win all around, really, really smart. Also, we see some traces of arbitraging here because Sophie is known, right? She's connected with Caitlyn, but she's known also as being a WNBA player. And but the WNBA has low salaries, so they don't get paid that much. So WNBA players need to establish themselves in the media to so that they can capitalize on their popularity. So Colin Colin probably got a good deal here. So this is a win all around, and I also think it's a win for Sophie in this case, by the way. And we'll get to that in a moment. But now let's tab to an article. And this is the one article. This is from a 2023. This is from John Wall Street. The title here is "The Volume Lays Groundwork for Next Gen Sports Talk Network." So what I take away from this is that Colin, because he has this large portfolio of podcasts that are of varying popularity, he's able now to have wholesale buys for ads, for advertising. So ad rates are going to command a premium when you're able to provide more at once versus where advertisers have to go to individual podcasts to buy their advertising. So it's more efficient this way, and then you're able to command a premium. So that's what it looks like is the main. This is what I think is the main thing that's going on here is that Colin has assembled this group. It's becoming stronger as it grows. We've got so many views. We can sell all of these views. And so now anybody that's under Colin's umbrella has access to those ad rates with the asterisk being that, of course, Colin is going to get a percentage share. What percentage share is definitely interesting, right? It would be definitely interesting to see how much revenue share is going on here. But then you also have the infrastructure aspect of this. So I'm sure he's helping with the YouTube setup, etc. But all of that is fairly, I hope everybody realizes it's not that difficult to set up a podcast and that you don't need Colin Cowherd to help you set up a podcast. But the studio, obviously I could stand to benefit from a studio. But all of those things are things that can be done, especially by these podcasts that are better off. But I can definitely see this. I mentioned Sophie Cunningham. I can definitely see this for Sophie Cunningham because she's an active player. So you don't want to lose too much of your focus to podcasting, but because you still have to pay attention to basketball and you have to practice. But now you have the instant setup. You have the podcast in a box, and then you can come to an agreement with Colin. And so he gets a percentage, you get a larger percentage, and then you potentially have a win-win. I don't know. The other part of this, though, I don't know how much organic promotion Colin is bringing. So just because it's Colin, like how much additional are you getting from, let's say, a push from Colin's podcast? What does that actually mean to you in terms of dollars and cents? And is it even needed for some of these other personalities? And then one other aspect that's related, the headline is Colin Cowherd signs Nick Wright's podcast away from Fox Sports. What exactly is going on with Fox Sports, Colin, and Nick Wright? Because we know that Colin and Nick are associated with Fox Sports. Is it they're limited to the TV, and then from there they have their own independent side? That's the takeaway I'm getting. But then we have Colin, who is signing Nick Wright. So to me, it's like, if I'm Fox Sports, like, what are you doing? We had Fox Sports. Now we're competing with you, but at the same time, you're a part of our network. So from what I can see, it's like you have these independent podcasts will appear on your television, like your TV network or your YouTube network, but at the same time, we're separate on our own podcast. So I'm guessing that's what's going on. But if I'm Fox Sports, that's not going to work for me. Like, I'm promoting you at the same time, like your brand is your name. So you're getting promotion. Now you have a podcast that's in effect competing with me for views. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's working from the network side. From Colin's side and Nick Wright's side, I can definitely see it. From Fox Sports, I don't see it. But this is an interesting side story. Okay, so I think I mentioned agitators. So the reason I started looking into Colin to begin with is because I consider him to be an agitator who I define as a sports media personality who has outlandish takes and is really more focused on agitation for engagement, not genuine dialogue, but just I'm saying something outlandish and I'm trying to get a reaction so that I can get views, and then I can continue on and I can perpetuate the cycle on and on. And so one other part of this is they will have no skin in the game. And if they're wrong, they can just move on. But I think it'd be cool if you see that you have these takes and there was actual real money at stake for these takes. And when I say real money, not just a raw dollar amount, but like relative to the actual net worth of the person, because then you won't be as flippant with the takes. But I don't mind. I don't so much mind when sports personality, like we have these sports media personalities that have these strong takes, that have strong opinions, but it's where it's just agitation. Like it's clearly just, hey, I'm trying to provoke you, and that's how I'm going to become, how I'm going to stay relevant. One interesting note here is that Colin is actually very well off. Like his channel is doing quite well. But when I looked at Skip Bayless's, it's a ghost town. There's just hardly, there's not a lot of activity there. And I think that's a result of, for so long, you've just strung people along and, you're just trying to stay relevant by stating outlandish things, and it's not actually genuine. So the other part here is I have Shaquille O'Neal noted, not that I consider him an agitator, but the one other possibility with agitators is that if they are proven wrong, then they take credit even though they've been proven wrong. So it's like, well, because I stated this, that motivated you to do this, and now you've really followed my advice. So congratulations, champ. And another one is good for Ryan. So I talked about Ryan Russillo leaving the Ringer last podcast, but what I didn't talk about was that I think it's the right move. Why not start his own company? I thought there'd be a synergy. When Zach Lowe was brought aboard, I thought there'd be this amazing synergy between them, and it didn't result. I expected them to have siloed podcasts, but I also expected more collaboration. But I like what Ryan did. Like he's independent now. We can see what he's capable of on his own, what ideas he has on his own. Yeah, that's all I have here. Is a good move for Ryan. I like it. And then I think this is the second to last point. It is. So Conor McGregor and Zion Williamson, I've got them paired together because recently Conor was in the headlines. He's apparently coming back. I would take the under on that, but he's demanding $100 million, which will never happen. I think 15 is about right. He's wasted his prime. He's 37 now. His fighting prime is over, especially when you consider that he's in a lighter weight class. It's over. You can potentially have an extended prime in a heavier weight class, but the lightweight classes, it's very difficult. And even if he was an outlier, let's just say he's an Alexander Volkanovski. Okay, yeah, but you haven't been training this whole time. So Alex is constantly training. Conor is just trying to get back in this. Of course, we know about the cocaine usage. It's just going to work out poorly for a guy who was already trailing off years ago when he tried to come back. There were too many years that went by where Conor was about to, or just you wait, and it never happened. Now he's past his prime, and he wasted his prime. Zion is in the, Zion recently lost a lot of weight, and he looks so much different with the weight loss. I think it's a good thing, but I also think Zion is going to miss the bulk. And so I think there was a middle ground where he didn't lose as much weight and he retained some of that strength, because that bulk helps when you're out there and you're able to dislodge people. Now he doesn't. Now he might not have it. I'm sure he's still ultra strong, but it's not the same when you're not carrying around that bulk. So I think some more weight would have done him well. And now he's going to be a skinny, undersized forward. So if he's just as athletic, if he can now still jump to the top of the backboard, then maybe it works out. But that bulk really was helping him move around people. But Zion is now 5 years into his career. He's entering his sixth season. Let's actually look at this career breakdown on Basketball Reference. The most he's played is 70 games in 2023, 2024. Then it was at 61 in his second season. And then after that, the top is 30 games played. So you've really wasted 5 years of your career at this point, and actually 6 years, right? Because he didn't play for one season. Yeah, so there are 5 total years where he logged games, and then there's 1 year where he didn't log a game. So he's really entering into his sixth NBA season. I already said that. No, he's entering into his seventh NBA season. I keep not seeing the did not play injury. He's logged 6 career years. Just one of those years he didn't play any, but now he's entering into what should be his seventh NBA season. And to me, this is like, why did it take you so long? You should. This is something you should have figured out sooner, because again, other players are building upon their gains, and so they're incrementally getting better every season. Now, maybe I don't know if the skinnier Zion is going to work well in the NBA, but now you're starting. It's like you're starting over again. Compare this to someone like Jason Tatum, who you can tell just continually gets better every year, and he's built himself into a rock solid superstar. And for Zion, it's like you didn't take this serious for so long, and your career is going to be over really, really quick. So Zion's not a guy that's going to have this extended career that lasts 15 plus years. I think he'll continue to be plagued by injuries, even with the weight loss. How is it that you're in you're still your youth? At age 19, you're a rookie, and you only play 24 games. Then age 20, you only play 61 games. And then age 21, you miss the entire season. Age 22, you're at 29 games. 23, we saw him play 70 games, but then last year he was back down to 30. So how do we go from there to where you have this long extended career? 5 years gone or 6 years gone, that's a lot of time. But at least he could still make up some time now. He's just about to turn 25. So there's still time to turn it around, but there's still, those past years are wasted. They're gone. He's not getting those back. All right. And then so we have DraftKings FanDuel saturation. I can't. So there are so many ads, and we see DraftKings, FanDuel, Prize Picks, and so on, et cetera. BetMGM, ESPN even has their own gambling operation. At this point, who hasn't signed up to bet on sports that would have otherwise? So it's like that. So if someone hasn't signed up by now, are they going? Is it they're going to see an ad and it's like, oh, now I'm going to sign up? It's not the past 3 years, but now that you've advertised to me again, now I'm going to sign up. So I'm guessing that it's about the constant reminders. It's like a prompting people to bet again. No, continue to bet. Like I know we know you've signed up, but now bet again. Come back, and we need to prime you to bet on this game and this game. The problem I have with it is not in and of itself what it is. It's the overall effect. That's what I have the problem with. I also completely understand when you have podcasts and anyone else that are advertising, because this is the easiest way to monetize sports content. It's the best way to monetize sports content. We can't ignore it, right? Like, you can, if you want to, you can look the other way, but it's there. You see it. We see all this promotion, but what's happening? Where is all this money coming from, right? And somebody has to pay for all of the profits, and that somebody ends up being the general populace, and many of whom cannot afford to lose that money, but they are, because they now think that they need to bet on sports to watch it. So it's a hollowing out effect for society, and it's the last point I have on the big board. So we will end it here. I have not forgotten about the Clippers scandal. We will get back into the Clippers scandal at some point, but right now, it's the fire is controlled. So there haven't been any new developments. I am going to look back into it, but yeah, these are the points for today. If there are any updates, I will include those in the description.